said reasons. Okay, so welcome everyone to this webinar. We thank you very much for making the time this afternoon to be with us and to be part of this discussion for today, where we are talking about when okay is not okay. So we will ask you to, right now, I'll share my screen. As people are joining in and as we give them time for them to join in and just be part of this discussion, we are asking the question, what does average, what other word means average to you? So I'm going to share my screen right now, and I'm going to ask you to go to Mentimeter. So just go to www.menti.com, www.menti.com, and then you can use the code that you see there, which is 61127726. So use the code that you can see right there. You can use your phone to get onto menti.com. And what we want to hear from you is, what other word means average to you? What other word means average to you? So I've also put this on the chat so that you can click on the link and it will take you directly to mentimeter.com and you can actually answer that question. So as we have people joining in, from everywhere, you can also type in where you're joining us from. I can see Emily says she's joining us from Nairobi. And even as you fill in and tell us, what other word means average to you? What other word means average to you? There's a link as well. Nearly there. Okay, we have someone saying nearly there. We have expected, good job. Someone is saying mediocre. Ordinary, okay, ordinary, yeah. Nothing wrong with ordinary. Good try, good job. Someone was also still saying average, reasonable, acceptable. So right now the winning word, and I'm trying to put in mine at the moment, is mediocre. That's the meaning word. Okay, so let's keep them coming, And let's see what kind of words mean when you hear the word average. What does that mean to you? Barely there, bare minimum, normally expected. Okay, yeah, it's okay. Neither here nor there. The standard, yes, the standard. Still one word sticks out, mediocre. And maybe you can write there, why mediocre? I have someone joining us from Embu. Welcome very much, Karemi Njiro, all the way from Embu. And as we get our guests coming in, there's a Mentimeter, and we have also shared the link on the chat so that you can just click on the link and it will take you directly to our poll for today, which is, what other word means average to you? So we have Grace Oduor joining us from Nairobi. Thank you for coming. Thank you to everyone for coming. I haven't seen anyone say Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, and I'm sure we have a few people from Dar in this conversation. I am sure I can even recognize some of the names. So we have bare minimum, there's still more coming. We have below standard as well. We have fair, yeah, fair. We have okay, not to the required standard. There's even one a Kiswahili word, kawaida, average, kawaida. What comments do you have for us, our esteemed guests, Richard and Zuhura? Coach Richie, as we call you. We have Ruth Serem joining us from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Karibu sana. So the words are still growing. They are as varied as the audience that we have. Kawaida, almost there, reasonable, nearly there, expected, fair, good job, not the required standard, ordinary, nothing special, you can do better, But still, there's one word there that people seem to have voted for the most, which is mediocre. So we will explore this today. What does average mean? What is average when it comes to work? So I can see we have Antonia Kilama from Dar es Salaam. Welcome. Irene Madeje, Zuhura Madeje, Lola. I'm learning Swahili. I'm learning. From beautiful Dar es Salaam. Madege. It says beautiful Dar es Salaam.
Yeah.
And then we have Peter Mose from Dar es Salaam. Jambo. I think Peter Mose might be one of us.
We have also Natu Mwamba. We have Natu Mwamba from Dar es Salaam too.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. I recognize many faces. Thank you so much. Many names, sorry. Thank you for joining us. We have Mzilasi from Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Mkoapi, Eldoret, Kisumu, Mkoapi. So reasonable. We still have the same names. So I'm going to ask our speakers to just note what we have gotten, maybe take a small picture, because we're going to really sit and talk about what is average. When we really sit and chambua, kuchambua hili jina average linamaanisha nini? We're going to also be referring to your own interpretations of the word average. What has this been? But let me welcome everyone to the webinar today, and thank you once again for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing this this particular poll that we're doing. I think we have a good understanding of what the crowd here today views average as. And our conversation today is largely going to center on exactly that. What is average? When is okay performance not okay? So today the webinar is brought by Lindam and Profiles International. And also we thank very much Coach Richie for agreeing to be part of this discussion. And we will introduce him to you in a short while. So what we three of us here try to do is to identify opportunities and enhance performance. So we are in all three in the space of talent management, and we're very passionate about being able to develop people to their full potential. So if you have any questions to do with talent management, performance management, then you're definitely in the right company and you can reach out to any of us. So the brand that really brings this webinar series to you is what we call the Genos EI brand. And we really are passionate about
how do you do that in Microsoft?
What it do. So I'm going to ask that we mute ourselves and ask the back end Scholar and Tanu to just ensure that they are muting people so we can all have the best experience. So we say that emotional intelligence is career enhancing at work and also life changing outside of it. And a lot of people who have gotten into this journey of developing this skill have seen just what a difference it makes in terms of their own personal development. So we are all over the world, and you'll find us in every continent, and we have practitioners in every single continent. And we have also won several awards when it comes to growing emotionally intelligent cultures worldwide. And today we are joined by Richard Magoma, and I'm sure a lot of people, at least in the Kenyan area, have heard a lot about him. And he's an award-winning human resource. Well, I don't know that to say he's award-winning personnel, but I can say a manager. And he was awarded by our very own institute for the work that he has been doing quite significantly in this part of the world. He's also a career or life coach and has worked with very many people in terms of growing their own careers in this space of in this corporate space. He has been a thought leader, and I'm sure those who follow him on LinkedIn have seen him share his very many pieces on the human space, the talent management space, and he also speaks a lot on various occasions. And then joined with me, of course, again, no stranger to our webinar series is Zuhura Muro, who is the managing director for Lindam Group, our partner in Tanzania. Now, Zuhura wears very, very many hats. She wears hats from the boardroom. She wears hats from, she was listed among the top 50 visionary women in the space of management. Just, I think, 2 weeks ago. She's also working with government to try and improve their relational aspects. So she does a lot of things, and she's been a mentor to very many people. And she is a champion for the women in the workplace and really equipping them with tools of how they can grow and be counted in the workplace today. So those are your two main speakers, Richard, Coach Richie, as we call him, and Zuhura Muro, all the way from Tanzania. And of course, myself, Vicky Karuga, the Managing Director of Profiles International, and also a general EI practitioner. So now that I've introduced to you our very able panel who are going to have this discussion with us, we want to say that should you want to tweet or follow us during this conversation, those are the handles you can use. And you can also look for Coach Richard Jellican on Twitter and on LinkedIn. You can tag him there. And you can also look for Zuhura Muro on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and you can tag them there in whatever it is that you want to speak about. So without further ado, and so that we can now continue with the conversation that we are all eagerly looking forward to, I want to start by now asking Zuhura to really define in her own words, what is average to her? As Richie, Coach Richie prepares his own answer. Zuhura, over to you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, Vicky, there is a lot of noise. Lots of noise. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was waiting for the noise to go away. Thank you very much for a very colorful introduction. I'm very happy to be in this conversation today because I've been sitting in spaces where performance is being discussed, and then the question of what is average performance, what is mediocre, and what is a good performance. So for me, if I were to define average performance, it is when you do what you are told to do, and that is, you don't do something more than that, and you end there. And in emotional intelligence point of view, it is only applying your hand. You don't apply anything else. So that's what I call average performance. Of course, when you look at it, you contrast it with mediocre performance. Mediocre performance, it's constantly failing to do what you are asked to do, desperately failing all the time. And whatever you produce, it is of a mediocre nature. And the good performance, it is when you go over and above what it is expected to be done, and you have applied a bit of your own mental effort. So for a good performance to happen, you must apply your hand, you must apply your head and your heart. That's when you can get a good performance from the emotional intelligence point of view. Vicky, you are muted.
Am I muted? Who muted me?
Yeah.
Must be those mandazis that I've not been getting. Anyway, I was going to ask Coach Richie to also tell us what he has found. He can say it's average performance for him. I have heard you talk about the hand and the heart. So I think by hand you mean you just do things in a very, this is it, this is where I am, but not yourself. But otherwise, what does it mean to have average performance, Coach Richie?
I didn't get what you said, but I want to pick as a definition of what is average performance. Average performance to me, it is when you look at your job description, say for example, you're a human resource person, you are required to do recruitment, you're required to do learning and development, you're required to do compensation, you're required to do employee engagement, you're required to do administration. But when you are appraised, let's say, for example, you are appraised by your supervisor, in each component you get, let's say, 2 marks out of 5 in learning and development. You get 2 marks in compensation. when you tally the total and you've scored below 50% of the marks, to me, you are below average, and there are consequences for you performing under the pass mark of 50%, below 50% will tell us that indeed you are not putting much into your work. You do not understand your job description. And as our audience has rightly said, it means you are a mediocre performer, you're a kawaida performer, you do not make a difference in efficiency, you do not make a difference in profitability, you do not make a difference in productivity. Even if you are removed and then we bring something else, probably an animal, you will not be able to reach at that level that is a different animal. You are not able to reach because of various reasons, probably which we'll explore in the conversation later. So for me, it is a person who is not able to conceptualize their job description very well, such that they can bring profits, efficiency, effectiveness, productivity to their organization. Their marks are too low comparatively. That is the person I can consider to be an average performer. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So you put quite a few explanations there and really touched on the workplace itself and said that we have certain things that we're supposed to achieve. And if we're getting to achieve these things by certain numbers, this could be average or just above average, then we fall under that average performer area that we're talking about. And the webinar today is titled When Okay Performance. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Zuhura, can you hear me?
It's Vicky there.
I'm saying
Zuhura.
I can hear you very well. And I heard what he said.
I am thinking Coach Richie is a bit harsh. So if we remove this person from this particular organization or this particular place, we will not miss them at all. Zuhura, what do you have to say?
You know, it's like I may agree and I may disagree with my Coach Ricky, because you find that you have the normal distribution curve. And my experience in human resource, you cannot miss the average performers. They'll be there because these are the people, according to the definition that I have given, are performing just what you have asked them to perform. So it means they are not really adding value in terms of innovating, in terms of bringing something new, freshness into the job, but they're doing the job. So they are sort of like, they find them in the, if you're looking at the average, distribution curve, they'll be there. So they'll do the job. They'll do the job as per the job description, but they are not going the extra mile to give you anything. They're not giving you as much in terms of thinking. They just come in, they do their job, they finish, they're happy, they go home. So you'll have average performer. So if you talk about removing them, they won't be missed. It is true, they won't be missed, because you can go and find a daladala or matatu full of average performers, because that's how it is. It is not easy to miss them out in the society. Now, when it comes to average performance into organization, and we say, why are we seeing it so many times? It is so much to do with the ability of the human being, you know, of being able to hide behind other people who are doing well. So it is like our organization, they have a bit of brushes here and there, where you find some people who are really average performers blending with the people who are doing well. So you see, organization is moving forward. But imagine if these average performers were pulling as hard as the others, you are going to see very good productivity, very good profitability. But because there is a way, and we have to discuss it later in this particular webinar, that people are able to hide, you know, somewhere, and they're able to blend with the people who are doing well and get away with it. That's why we have average performers, and we tolerate them somehow in the organization. But somehow I can agree with him that they can go out and they're missed, but You cannot do away with average performer. Life has given us that kind of a scenario where you have those who will give you the best performers. There'll be those who will give you just good performers, and there will be an average performers, but also you may have the laggers who are doing so bad and you have to do away with them.
Okay, so my question now, because you have mentioned the bell curve, and this one now goes to Coach Richie. Why are there less people, or when we look at the organizations that we're speaking of here, what might be some of the reasons we're seeing less people actually do more of the work? I know we have that bell curve where we say 68% of most people fall between this particular percentage and this particular percentage. And then we of course have the outliers, but we find that even if we extend a little bit on this side, most of the work will be done by about 20%, what you're calling the Pareto rule. If that is the case, why is it that sometimes the organizations have so many people not really pulling up on the end of the bargain or on the work that they're supposed to do? Over to you, Coach. And you are muted, Coach.
But it's all right. Now, that is a very good question. When we do most of the things, when we analyze things, we'll discover that most of us lie in between the curve. But when we bring in the Pareto principle, we discovered that it is 20% of the population or the employees who bring 80% of the results. What are the reasons why we have less people doing more work, that is bringing 80% of the results? One of the reasons we'll look at is some people are very well trained, some people are very well focused, some people are very well mentored, some people read books. That is why the 20% are able to move the needle of performance. So what can we do so that we move a majority of the underperformance or the average performance so that the organization is able to experience them? It is a question of doing probably a survey or doing competence mapping or understanding why they are performing poorly so that they can be able to join the 20%. Imagine if you brought about 20% of the 80% who are not doing well, and you bring them to the 20% who bring a majority of the results. You can imagine how exponential it will be for the organization. And some of the tools for bringing this 80% is understanding, did we do the correct hiring? Is the culture of the organization supporting them? Is it a question of lack of resources? Is it our hiring or talent management which is wanting? So once we understand the reasons why, because we have to research and develop, we have to look at the reasons why we have a majority of employees doing less, and yet we have 20% of the people bringing more results. So it's a question of researching and then applying the tools that will be able to elevate their performance. Nothing is cast on stone. Even being stupid is not cast on stone. Even being intelligent is not cast on stone. You can discover why some people are top-notch performers. You can discover why some people are average performers, so that you can be able to do a mind shift. Because sometimes you can discover that it's the belief systems that they have that is why the majority are not producing more results. Remember, sometimes some of the things that make organizations not to do very well, it is wrong interview skill. If you applied the wrong interview skills, you will not be able to attract the best performers. If you are using favoritism, you will not be able to get the best performers. If you are using nepotism to recruit, you will not be able to attract the best talent. So it is the question of you knowing why are the 20% performing very well and why are the 80% not performing very well. So you replicate the 20% such that the 80% are also inspired, encouraged, empowered to perform very well. Thank you.
So I'm going to share a short slide over here. And this one is just meant to give you an indication. We've talked about the bell curve. And by the bell curve, this is what I mean. This is the bell curve. This is the inspiring, empowering. This one we said that the laggards, this is the average and okay. So this is someone who presented this information and said, yes, the guys on one side, the ones we saw at the green, they're spectacular, they're empowering. People will tell other people about them. People will refer other people. People will look forward to returning if it's actually a client-related matter. And then the guys who are terrible on the other side would have an awful experience. People will also tell people about them. People will post on social media. We see this all the time. In our side of the boundary, we like calling Kenya Power. I think I've not had less for the last 3 days, but people will post. But then let's look at these people who are just okay. No one tells them anything. People walk away. They are not memorable. Then it's indifferent. So it's just okay. I think, Zuhura, what do you have to say for that? When we have just okay, you get, so I'm here and the experience, when you experience me, it's just there. So I can't talk about you because you're neither good, neither are you bad.
Yeah. I'm just processing what Coach Ricky has said, and I'm looking at it, and he focused so much on the tools and what we need to do and a lot more. And then you brought in the bell curve, and we know that our organization, even the organizations that we are leading, even the people who are in this audience, they are grappling with the same issue of performance. On my side, I would like to sort of like tweak it a bit and look at it from a different angle, Vicky, if you allow me. And the different angle that I want to look at it, yes, it's good to have tools. Yes, it's good to have processes and procedures to get these people in and also to get them to work. But if I look at many of the performance issues that I've seen around, be it in the private sector, in the public sector, even in the academia world, what I have seen, it has to do a lot with the leadership of those institutions. Because I believe so much that the role of leaders in any institution is to facilitate high performance. And if you go to an organization, you find that the performance is wanting. Look at the leadership. What kind of behaviors the leaders are supporting in that particular organization? What kind of tone are we getting from the leaders? How are leaders engaging the workers to really believe in the work that they are doing and the role that they are doing, for them to really get inspired and move now to become, high performers? So you can have the tools. You can have, I've seen organizations that have implemented Professor Kaplan balanced scorecard, but still grappling with very low performance. So for me, where I will start, the prescription that Richard is talking about is well and good, but where I'll start with the leadership. Looking at the leadership, what is their mindset when the issues of performance are supposed to be? What kind of mindset do they have? And how are they making that mindset known within that organization? And how are they rallying the workforce in terms of galvanizing performance? So at the end of the day, there is two things. I look for a job in an organization because I have my objectives. And my objective can be, I see that job like a paycheck, and that's it. I need to find a leader who can really transform my thinking so that I don't see it as a job. I see something, a bigger picture of what I'm doing. I see that how my job is connected into creating an impact either to the customers who are directly enjoying the services or to the public that I'm serving. That kind of a meaning has to be given by the leaders. And when leaders fail to provide meaning of what people are doing, that's when you find even the best performance appraisal tools will not work. You may have very good talent, but if that talent does not know why they are doing this job, slowly the talent will start going into mediocrity, as you know it. So it is tools plus also the human touch.
Okay, so I'm hearing both of you, and I can see there is, on one side, let's have the tools, let's evaluate performance, let's have the right hiring practices. On the other side, let's also invest on great leadership. Let's invest in people who can give someone a vision for why they're actually working. So over to you, Coach Richie. And I think when you are talking about the tools, one of the things I'm going to ask you is, what are some of the things that you have seen in terms of these tools have actually caused mediocrity, or just, let's not talk about it as mediocrity, but just average performance in organizations? What would you say to that? Coach, have we lost you?
As you repeat the question, because I didn't get it, I could like to emphasize what Dr. Maxwell has said, that everything in an organization rises and falls on leadership. It is the leadership to set the trend that in this organization we value and reward outstanding performance, we reward delightful customer treatment. It is the leaders, because as we say, the fish starts to rot from the top. So it is the leaders who set the tone, the pace of high performance. Now you can repeat the question because I didn't get it. I just wanted to echo what my fellow presenter was saying about leadership. Indeed, leadership is the one that, it is the leaders who will give the budget for training. It is the leaders who will be able to refine the organizational culture to higher performance. So leadership, actually, it is everything that is connected to it. It is performance, how resources are optimized. So leadership is actually the climax of high performance. So that is very true. So now you can ask your question, because I didn't get it.
That's okay. So we've talked about leadership. So I was just asking more towards what other tools have you also seen contribute to average performance? I like this discussion because we're going to.
Okay, you're asking the tools that we can use to pull average performance towards excellence.
That have also caused average performance. I think you mentioned one of them, which was recruitment, lack of recruitment. What else can we talk about?
Now, there is the question of organizational impunity. If you go to an organization which does not punish mediocrity, if you go to an organization that tolerates mediocrity, if the employee himself or herself tolerates mediocrity, then this will become too embedded. It will become ingrained in the organization. So what we got to do is disrupt people's belief systems. This can be done by providing resources that change people's mindset, giving books that change people's ideas about performance. Because in most cases, you'll get, for example, if it is public speaking, for example, you will get somebody saying, you know me, I've never spoken in public, and I think if I spoke in public, I'll definitely die. You know, the question is to bring coaches that deal with public speaking, such that this person is able to present during meetings, they're able to present during trainings, such that they gain new experiences, they experience something fresh. Also, the other thing that needs to be done is performance metrics and analytics. This is whereby the immediate supervisor will sit down with this particular person and then understand the causes of their underperformance. All right. Like yesterday, we had a very interesting training about root cause analysis and then understand what are the reasons for this person performing so poorly. Is it because we are lacking resources? Is it because we didn't hire very well? Is it because their skills are misaligned? So once you discover the reasons for their lack of good performance, you are able to provide medication for their non-performance. You analyze their competence. You do competence mapping, you understand? Or maybe this person is in a wrong department. This person should be shifted to a department whereby they can be utilized. You get?
Yeah.
Once you do that, you will be able to discover that this person's performance will take a new trajectory because of what you've done. You have disrupted their belief system. Maybe they do not have enough self-esteem. Maybe the way they were onboarded was not very good. So this one created a culture of poor performance, okay? Maybe this person is performing poorly because the compensation is not competitive. They will tell you during your research or interview, your remuneration is not competitive. Your reward system is not competitive. Your benefits are not. This person could be using internet to do other jobs. They are wasting they're using company time and company resources to look for work. So you need to understand, is it compensation which is a problem? Is it benefits which are a problem? Is it reward which is a problem? Are there supervisory problems? Are there employees that harass this person? Because if somebody is being harassed by supervisors, by other means, they will return, they will keep their excellence to themselves. Okay, let us now sail in the same boat. If I have a supervisor who is not able to manage me properly, what do? I respond by keeping my intelligence. My genius is kept to me because the environment is not accommodating. That is one. The other thing you need to do is, what is it that I want to say that you need to do such that you improve performance? I've said about performance management. I've talked about compensation. I've talked about supervision. Okay, supervision.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ably responded to your question of what you need to do such that you can be able to improve the performance of those who are not doing very well.
Definitely.
But
definitely. And I think
before you say somebody is not doing very well, you have got to diagnose the problem such that you can be able to give the prescription to that problem of average performance or mediocre performance or kawaida performance. I don't know the word performance in Kiswahili, what we should say, kawaida performance in Kiswahili, what I should say. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think what we are also trying to say here, and what I'm hearing from both you and Zuhura, is that the bell curve that we have talked about could actually shift. The 68% of us who are there in average performance could either shift downwards, because as you're saying that if we reward impunity, if we reward mediocrity, if we don't have proper ways of setting key performance indicators and metrics, if we don't have a way of even telling what average performance is, if we are doing certain things such as not recruiting right and really getting to the root causes of some of the issues, then we are shifting our middle performance down, and it keeps going down. And as I was saying earlier, this person who is an average performance is someone who is easily forgotten. But yet, if we are investing in training, relevant training and coaching, if we're investing in trying to recruit right, trying to move people to departments that they have a better fitting. And if we are also, as Zuhura is saying, having leadership that is switched on, in terms of how do we impact and influence culture such that it is a culture of excellence, then we're seeing this bell curve move right along again. So we're moving more towards excellence. And there will still be the outliers who do a little bit more, but our average people are moving along with them, so we're getting better and better results. That's what I think I'm hearing. But let me ask Zuhura.
There is another.
Yes. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to make a rejoinder. Yeah, I wanted to make a rejoinder because the prescriptions we are talking about here, as business, we may have also to look at other sectors. I'm saying as business, we have to look at other sectors. Like, for example, if you look at military discipline, where you find that you have a military and the military, the way it is divided.
Yes.
What I've seen in a number of organizations, people get lost because you have an organization. Let's say I'm working with an organization which has 4,700 employees across Tanzania. And I have a question from the senior management team. How do we create this culture of high performance within our organization? And people are outpost there. The resources are scarce and so on. And then I was thinking about how military organizations work, because you find if you have your organization and you decide, I don't want to be the primary, accountable for performance. I want everyone in my organization to be accountable for performance. So you raise the accountability. And that accountability can be in 3 levels, where you have accountability is at individual level, and then you have accountability at group level, accountability at organizational level. So when you have your organization organized in such a way that people are working in teams, and the teams are accountable to the performance of their team. So they will hold individuals accountable to the performance, meaning that holding individuals to perform well in what they are doing. And together as a team, reaching the performance accountability together as a team. So there you have a very different, dynamics, because you find that organization is organized in teams, and all the teams, they understand why they exist. They understand how they contribute to the greater good, just like in the military, that that I'm a commandant and I have to contribute to the success of this military. So that is what the Kaizen principle is, where you find Japanese businesses, they are very successful in terms of maintaining high performance and getting everybody to really fire the right missiles to produce productivity. It is because they have learned the secret of organizing the workforce into teams, and each team has accountability for performance, and the team hold individual team members for accountability in performance, and as together they raise the performance of the organization. Now, what this does, it does exactly what we can look at the Bushmen in Kalahari Desert. Bushmen in Kalahari Desert, they live a very difficult life. So it means you have to wake up in the morning, go hunting. The women have to go and look for roots and bring the roots, eat and whatever. Now, what happens when a Kalahari person becomes old and becomes, a burden to the family? What they do, they give this person a small amount of honey in a calabash, and then a bit of dried meat. They put him under a baobab tree to survive only for a few days before ferocious animals eat him up.
Oh God.
Because you have because you have stopped contributing. Now, in our organizations, if we are not organized very well, we have so many old bushmen hidden within our workforce. They are not adding value. They're actually a cost to us. They are a liability to us, but we don't have a system to flush them out. Now, if you have a system where organization is organized in teams, then you cannot have a place where an old bushman will hide, because the team will flush that old bushman out. But if you have it like 4,700 workforce and you don't see the teams, they are not visible, they are not accountable for the performance of their team, then you have so many old bushmen hidden there, consuming, costing your organization, their liabilities, they are not adding anything.
She has said there is a concept called social loafing. This is where...
Richard.
Yeah, there is a story that is often told of 5 men who wanted to have a party of liquor. And everybody was required to bring 5 liters of liquor. The first man thought that I should not bring liquor because we are going to have a lot of liquor. So let me bring water instead in my container. The second man also thought the same, that why are we going to have a lot of liquor today? Let me put a little bit of water so that we do not have a lot of liquor. So the trend continued until the fifth person. Now, when they started drinking liquor, they realized that actually what they were doing is pure water. All right. This is in team building. You will discover that some people will say, "Oh, since we are combining and collaborating, let me reduce part of my energy. Let me reduce part of my genius. Let me reduce my ability," and in the process, it weakens the team. So it is important for us to be able to know who is slacking, such that we pinpoint, we call them out, and give them tools for better performance. So it is important for you to call them out. And actually, she has mentioned a very important concept, the concept of accountability. Accountability is answerability. Answerability is where you do not give excuses of why you are not performing very well, because the preconditions for you performing are available. And if they are not available, you point out to them such that you do not give excuses later. So the concept of answerability or accountability is very important if we want to get or liberate ourselves from the idea of average performance. And it's a very tough concept, by the way, because it requires courage, it requires confidence, it requires being assertive.
Okay, I hear you, Richard. I think your internet is really playing some tricks on you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He has asked. He was asking about the summary of what I said.
Yeah. But moving on, and thank you so much for both of you for sharing towards that. And please, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to put them on the chat, and we shall ask our two panelists to respond to you. Anything that you might really want to know about this conversation we're having, when okay performance is not okay. And I want to ask that question, and I think both of you have touched on it. What kind of expenses do we see? What is the cost organization when we just allow average to rule the day? And I'll start with you, Zuhura. What is the cost? And then I'll go over to Coach Richie.
Okay, because I'm active in this market in Tanzania and I have worked in some other markets too, the cost is huge, because I've seen organizations that had big markets and the market was growing. I've seen organizations that were endowed with a senior management team that was capable in terms of qualification, experience, educational accolades and other things. I've seen organizations also which had all those resources plus political will for those organizations to do well in my own country. But those organizations, because of accepting average performance, they shut the doors. And I want to give an example. We had a national milling corporation in Tanzania. By the time when it was wound, because it was not profitable and it was dying, it had a very capable senior management team, technicians and others. It failed completely because the culture of average performance embedded the organization so much. Although the population was growing, this organization failed. And the assets of those organizations were bought by one self-made entrepreneur called Said Salim Bakresa. He bought National Milling Corporation. He has not had secondary education or masters in anything. But now we are talking of Bakresa Group being a dominant group with more than 33 companies around East, Central, and Southern Africa competing in the saturated markets like South Africa. Now we are asking ourselves what happened, because he managed to grow the National Milling Corporation to become a giant. And then born out of that, he was able to start other milling outside Tanzania. And then the question is, did he use a lot of sophisticated tools to measure performance? What was behind that? So that's why I go back and I say, it is more about the leadership philosophy and the ethos and what leaders are rewarding. You can have the best tools. You can have even what you call artificial intelligence to measure your performance and whatever. But if you don't have the human commitment, and that's why I say for many organizations, what we need is to achieve the triple H: hand, head, and heart. And the heart is very, very important because the heart is the one which will power the hand and the head. Now, what we are missing, we normally become okay when people give us their hand alone and they don't give us anything else. So you find the organization are not having innovation. The organizations are stuck. They are stagnating. The organizations are not growing. So you find that thing happening. And it is nothing to do with maybe the market has shrunk. No, the market has not shrunk. The market is demanding. People have desire. But because of the poor leadership in that organization, that's when we see people staying in the average. And the longer you stay in the average, now you enter into deficit. Before you know it, you are declaring bankruptcy. So the cost is so high. And it is costing not only that organization, but remember, everything, any business which fails, it has an impact on the GDP growth of the country and the prosperity of the country. So I look at it from it is not numbers. For me, when I look at performance issues, numbers are, I go beyond numbers. I go to how many people are affected by the failure of that particular organization. I start tabulating from there. And that's when you can see the magnitude of the impact of average performance. And that's why you can see why we should fight average performance with all our power by assisting organizations to perform at good and excellent performance.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. Hand, head, and heart. Even the head is difficult to get, isn't it? Getting someone to be the head part with you. I'm seeing there's some question online, and before I read the question, I don't know if Richard wants to add anything onto what Zuhura has just said. Richard, Coach Richie, rather.
The cost of average are astronomical. The costs attached to underperformance or mediocrity are so big. One, failure of business. Businesses fail because of tolerating average performance or kawaida. Utendaji kawaida. Nimeona mtu ameandika utendaji. Utendaji kawaida attracts failure of business. That is one. Two, it leads to brain drain, where you discover that those 20% who have been contributing 80% of the productivity will say, I am doing a lot of heavy lifting. Why should I be doing a lot of heavy lifting? In economics, we call them deadwood. Why should I be the one carrying the deadwood of the organization? Let me go to where we are the superstars, whereby people bring innovation, whereby people bring creativity, whereby people bring a lot of their genius to bear on the performance of the organization. Three, the obvious one is that you will increase expenses. For example, imagine buying all the resources in the office to people who are not contributing. Those are wasted expenses. Four, it is brand. The brand of the organization goes down drastically because there is constant customer complaint, constant stakeholder conflicts, all right? Fifth, and the last probably I want to bring across is you produce mediocre services, you produce mediocre products, and eventually it will lead to number one, whereby the organization will close because it's not making profit. So the costs, when you tolerate this every day consistently, you will affect other parameters of economics, which my fellow presenters pointed out, the GDP. You can imagine if Nairobi, we tolerate a lot of incompetence in, let's say, 100 organizations. You can imagine what the ripple effect will be to the capital city if we tolerated average performance in the city. The GDP, so to speak, of Nairobi will go down. So it is a collective responsibility that we avail tools that will move people from underperformance or average performance or mediocre performance ama utendaji kawaida, such that they come to the level whereby they are able to contribute towards the excellence and productivity and profitability of the organization. That is the cure. We have given the cure. The cure is coaching, mentoring, proper methods of attracting talent and retaining. You know, you can attract talent and you are unable to retain it because you do not have the proper methodologies of retaining that talent. So the costs to average performance, they are so obvious and some of them are so subtle, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, we'll see the end results as closure of business, stress, friction, conflicts, and all that, and a bad name as well.
And a good brand name. Okay, very well highlighted. I can actually see someone there, Irene, saying that PMI and KPIs, PMS, KPIs, and targets are critical tools to driving a high-performing organization. Unfortunately, given the definition of high performers, it is impossible to standardize expectations for the extra mile performance, which leaves the decision of that extra mile to be subjective. So her question is, maybe Zuhura, you can take this one because I know she's from Tanzania. How can we equip line managers to avoid biasness in evaluating high performance?
Okay. I think the first thing that we need to think about, it is also asking ourselves, how are we getting our line managers? Because working with a lot of middle management and senior management teams in Tanzania, I realize in most cases, the way we go about promoting people in our organization, they have a lot of question marks because you see, when you start your career, you start with the technical mastery and you are known because of that technical mastery. And when you become very good in your technical mastery, people just think like, okay, now we can promote you to manage other people. So the moment you are promoted to manage other people, you are supposed to now relinquish. Your technical mastery is not as important as your ability to engage and influence people. Now, what we don't do, we promote these young people, but we don't give them the tools that will enable them to engage professionals as they are starting, like when they started. So they get there, they are ill-equipped. Because they're ill-equipped, they have psychological danger lacking inside them. High performer become a threat instead of becoming like a good addition in my team. And because of that kind of feeling psychological threat within themselves, they live in what we call imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, it is when you are asked now, you are promoted and you are called head of department. Sitting there as a title, you are head of department, but internally, you are not sure of yourself. So it is very difficult for this person to be able to run a performance appraisal conversation because of the kind of insecurities that exist within them. That is one way. The second way, it is also the criteria that we use for promoting someone to occupy a higher position of supervising others. We base that criteria on IQ, intelligence quotient, and we don't look at the EQ. And that EQ is very important. So when you don't have a system which is able to look at other things like your ability to communicate, your ability to express your feelings in such a way that the person you are managing understands you, your ability to be authentic, your ability to be expansive in your thinking and consultative so that you are able to co-create understanding within your team, then we end up having managers who are really sitting without having properly been prepared to manage, because managing people is not easy. You are managing a person who has 86 billion neurons in his brain with trillions of connectors. And you have to make this people, yes, 86 billion neurons and trillions of connectors. This person is monitoring everything. For me to be able to influence this person, I must have a certain maturity. I must have a certain soft skills of being able to influence a person who maybe we started working together, is engineer like me, but now I'm becoming the manager. It requires a lot of preparation. We don't invest enough to make sure that these people are able, even themselves, to understand what is high performance, what is good performance, what is an average performance, what is a mediocre performance. And I can tell you, leaders are supposed to chew everything and say, when I say good, what does good look like? And you may find somebody is sitting managing performance of other people, but they don't know what good looks like. So we have a big problem. We have to relook at how we prepare our leaders within our businesses.
Thank you, thank you. I like what you said. Psychological danger. Yes,
well?
you may as well. Yeah, please feel free.
The question is very important. Ordinarily, we assume that when a person is in a leadership position, they are able to carry out performance appraisal very well. For those people who train, or those people who are in the learning and development sector, will tell you that for a person to become an effective appraiser, they must undergo some form of training. That is one, so that they are able to understand the seriousness of performance appraisal or performance management. Two, the people who are appraising must be able to understand what errors can they avoid such that the performance appraisal exercise comes out as a scientific, as something which is valid, as something that can be replicated. So the two things that you have to note: the appraiser should be trained, even if they are in a leadership position. Two, the appraiser must know what kind of errors to avoid in their appraisal, such that they come out with objective outcomes of the appraisal. And I'm glad that my fellow presenter has brought the concept of EQ. EQ, as we started COVID, has become the new kid on the block, and for good reasons. You will find a person who is having genius level intellect, but they do not have the correct soft skills. Like, I went to a university to give a lecture on soft skills. You will discover that somebody is a genius in understanding mathematical theorems, but they are not able to express themselves. These people lack empathy. They cannot build relationships. They cannot, what is the other thing about emotional intelligence? They're not empathetic. They cannot be able to have constructive or meaningful relationships. They cannot manage themselves. You know, indisciplined genius is as zero as being stupid. If you do not know how to manage your genius, you are no different from a person who is mediocre, because you cannot channel your genius towards the proper direction.
Okay.
Actually, what you have said, Richard has mentioned something, because here we are talking about intellectual humility. And when you have technocrats who have risen through the line because of their genius nature, they have intellectual arrogance, and intellectual arrogance in any performance management system or building talent, it is a very bad poison in many organizations. So you find also we are affected by having people who cannot have intellectual humility of being able to really guide somebody else to be the best version they can be. So for me, at the end of the day, it's the ability of the leaders to provide meaning and the ability of the leaders to engage in conversations that are well-meaning, conversations that they show that I care about you and I want to know how I can support you to do the best you can do. And we don't ask that question. If you look at the teams of football coaches, they achieve a lot. They don't go to the pitch and play, but the way they manage the performance of their teams, it is connecting with each and every player at a personal level, wanting to know how best can I support you for you to be able to produce the best results. So we can learn a lot from the military, we can learn a lot from the sports world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we have been listening quite to a lot of input being given here by Zuhura and Coach Richie. I must say, even for me, I'm currently rethinking about, how can I, with my team, because I guess for here, we're looking at ourselves and seeing the teams that we are now leading back where we are at our point of leadership, at our direct point of leadership. How can I move that needle myself from this average and move it across here? And I've gotten some very nice pointers on how to do that. So as we summarize and as we go into the last sessions, you both mentioned emotional intelligence. And I know from where you sit, Zuhura, this is a topic very dear to your heart, something you train in, something you speak on. And I think in Tanzania, one of the people who has invested both in the heart, the hand, and the hearts, and the heads of people to practice and to really live the emotionally intelligent way. And I know from Richie mentioning the softer side of performance management, and even at leadership level, have you been able to harness the soft skills? With EI, we talk about collaboration. We talk about creating psychologically safe places for our people to be able to share with us what's really happening. But what about, one last question from me, when you really, really have someone who has the heart, but maybe not the know-how, and they're really struggling with performance, what would you do in such a case? So someone who really wants to, but just can't, what do you do?
Well,
yeah. Vicky, I think if I...
Well, you know, I don't know who you asked, is it me or Zuhura?
Anyone.
All right. You know,
I'll take both of your answers because you're all answering
right.
from different perspectives. Yes.
You know, average performance is not a very attractive thing. It is as painful as somebody who needs such surgery. It is as painful as a person who needs tough love. So it is not going to be easy. You have got to understand what change management tactics I've got to use to this person, because the passion is there. It is the mechanics of achieving excellence that are lacking. What do? Do I pair them with a mentor within their department? Do I pay for coaching services for this person? Do I look for a counselor? Because some of the reasons why people perform below average are psychological. Maybe these people are traumatized. These people are stressed. These people do not know how to express themselves. So you have got to invest in some of these therapeutic methods that can be able to have the reasons why they are not able to perform very well. Then once you've diagnosed the problem, you can avail resources. You can probably refer this person to certain performance management blogs. You can be able to point to them what kind of books they will read. You can also sell the benefits of high performance. There are very good books. There is a book by Brandon called High Performance. Such a recommendation to that person, such that they can be able to experience what are the benefits, what are the methodologies of overcoming average performance. So in a nutshell, it's a question of understanding the reason why they are not able to rise to the occasion, and provide medication of resources. Resources being here, mentorship within the organization, investing in executive coaching services. 3, try to inspire them, because some people are demoralized in this life, okay? You try to encourage them every other time, I mean, give them time, because in learning and development, we learn things differently. So you have got to understand this type of person, what kind of method will be able to spur growth. Are they quick learners? Are they indifferent? So once you have understood the causation of the problem, then you can be able to prescribe certain resources. And there's nothing new under the sun if you recommend the proper medication. 90%, I can assure you, once the willingness is there, the transformation becomes very easy, because there's steps that a person can take to improve their performance from lower levels of performance to the highest levels of actualization.
Okay, and Zuhura, what do you have to say?
Okay, for on my side, what I will say, it is more about every individual is unique, and it is how we prepare our line managers. Because when you are looking at issues of performance, you can look at it from a quadrant: ability and desire. You may have someone who has ability but does not have desire to do well. This person, of course, you think of cutting ties. Exit this person, because this person is going to cost your company. If you try maybe PIP and it doesn't work, you better cut that ties. And then you have a person who has desire but has low ability. The desire is very high. I think this person requires support in terms of teaching, making sure that you hold hand, because the desire is very high. It means he's emotionally prepared to learn and to become better. And then you have a person who has high ability but low desire. This person needs some kind of inspiration, some kind of storytelling to remind him of the meaning of why he's there. And then you have high ability and high desire. These are your high flyers. You are looking for, how can I utilize these people and how can I progress them to the next line? So I don't think in many organizations, we prepare our line managers to understand this kind of a quadrant and what to do. And in most cases, when I'm working with line managers in Tanzania, I'm asked a question: what do I do with this person? Sort of like you find the line manager very desperate, not knowing what to do. But when you start analyzing this particular person, you realize he needed a certain unique approach for unlocking the potential of this person. So the emotional intelligence comes there, because you cannot understand this uniqueness unless you become a very good listener, understanding to hear the things that are not said, but making sense of those things. We are talking about intentional listening, intentional focus on what somebody is saying. And that's when you'll be able to do that. So what I've seen quite a number of, there would be high performers in organization, shredded in invisible shredders in the organization because of lack of empathy and understanding from their line managers.
I can give examples. Well, Richard Bronson is a person who startles and had difficulties in education, but look where he is. He has improved. If we look at the famous Steve Jobs, he even didn't finish university. If we look at, who else is that? Is it Henry Ford or Thomas Edison? They were not very bright people, but they found their calling. It's a question of mapping where you suit most. I could be in finance, but I'm meant to be a caterer. So it is a question of knowing where you belong in the organization and under what kind of leadership, because leadership also accounts how people perform. Leadership can promote excellence. Leaders can stifle excellence as well. So it is a question of diagnosing what is the root cause of that underperformance.
Okay, fantastic. I think we've been having a very good discussion. I think we have touched on what is average performance. We've had people on the chat also tell us what average performance is. We've also talked about the reasons why we have average performance in our organizations. We've talked about ways that we can manage this average performance. And I like this conversation because We've talked about it from the angle of human resource, from the angle of the tools, what has to be applied, and also on the softer side, the angle of the collaboration, the angle of emotional intelligence, the angle of being able to find the root cause analysis for why some of these things are not really moving along to high performance. And I can see over there we have some books that have been shared by Richard as well as our girls at the back end, Tanu and Scholar. There's Thomas Edison, an American inventor that we shared, the Rangers and SEAL teams who are high performing teams. And in fact, one of the things I know that this guy, the guy for the purpose, your why, what's his name? Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek has a video where he talks about the SEALs do not promote for competence, they promote for trust. They promote which person in this particular organization would you trust with your money, your wallet, so your wallet and your wife. And if this person has a certain threshold of technical competencies, then they're most likely to be the leader that inspires others to perform at their very best. So you can see those are high performing teams that really embrace trust and embrace the ability to influence higher than actually having the technical skills. So we have Richard Branson, we have Thomas Edison, who are people who have inspired others despite not being the most academically achieved people in the room. And as we wind down this webinar that we've shared quite a bit, and thank you so much again for giving us your time, what would be the last story that you would give us? Because I know both of you are great storytellers, and I think Asha has said, I admire the vivid examples from football and military on high performance teams. And I think we also have someone here, Paul, who says managers, evaluating employees based on sales targets, financial perspectives, and so on. I mean, is this really the correct way of getting the performance of the employees? So we have really looked at the breadth of this conversation in the last about 75 minutes or so. So in a nutshell, what would you say after having this conversation? And I'll first let Richard go, and then I'll close it down with Zuhura. What would be your last parting remarks on this particular conversation? Richard, you seem to keep losing me and losing Zuhura as well. I'm asking you, what is your last parting remarks when it comes to this conversation where we're trying to steer our own teams, our own small teams towards being more high performing? Have you heard me, Richard? Coach Richie? Coach?
I totally lost you. Maybe you can say briefly what you wanted. I lost you completely.
What I have asked you is your parting remarks on this topic.
This topic is very critical. That is the most important thing. And it's a very painful topic because nobody wants to be called they have the disease of being average. In fact, there is a book by somebody, Vicky, you could be knowing the person, The Enemy Called Average. Go read that book. For those people who feel that they are underperforming, you will understand the causes of underperformance, and you will find the cure for underperformance. In overall, the benefits of excellence are enormous. The benefits, the return on investment of excellence are so many. That is why we should painfully invest. And I mean investing in terms of money, investing by other means, such that we are able to get out of that environment of mediocrity, utendaji kazi kama kawaida. We should be able to disrupt ourselves continuously, attend more seminars, attend more conferences, make sure you have a coach, make sure you have a personal coach, make sure you have a personal library in your house, such that, you know, some of these things I'm saying, I read a lot, And it's not a very comfortable thing to do. It has to be troublesome, but we have to do it. All right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Richie. And Dada Zuhura, as I can see someone has called you on the chat. Dada Zuhura.
I'm Mama. Okay, asante sana. I'm Dada, I'm Mama. And my last parting word is like, we are starting our fourth industrial revolution. It will be very absurd to continue leading with the junk theory of that people come to workplace to be told what to do. So for us to raise the performance of our organization, there must be a shift in our leadership mindset. And that shift is very important because what we need to do is to be able to do three things. Yeah, the three things. There is a lot of noise.
Mary.
I've muted them. Continue.
Yeah, there are three things that we need to do. First of all is to fix our leadership. Make sure that the people we put to lead our organizations are prepared to lead. Because leadership is not a picnic. It is something which calls for rising to challenge. The second thing that we need to do, we have to stop being commanders in our organization and become storytellers. And when I talk about storytelling, it is about providing meaning, making everybody become your chief meaning officer. So if you have all your managers becoming chief meaning officers to their team, I'm sure the organization will raise the performance very high. The third thing that we need to do, the line managers should also become chief broomers. They have to remove all obstacles that come in the way for good performance. Any process or procedure which is holding people back to deliver results. So we need to have a cohort of line managers who are not only executing, but also thinking from the policy procedure angle so that we can raise our performance. And lastly, we must have managers who are able to really sit down and reflect and say, what is the why of this organization? How does it, resonate with my why? And how do I transfer that why to the people that I lead? Once we have such a thing, even performance management conversation should not become painful, because my experience being in the HR space, many people fear performance appraisal. They don't go to the performance appraisal meetings with comfort. They go with some kind of apprehension. The person who is being evaluated and the person who is evaluating, they go there with some sort of apprehension. And it is so because we are still implementing old mental models in leading people. We have to break them because we are entering an era which requires a different way of managing our people, different way of managing performance, different way of interacting and making people produce value. And once we know that, and we put the human factor and empathy in the middle, I'm sure we'll be able to raise the performance of our organization.
Wow. Thank you so much, Zuhura. Thank you so much, Coach Richie. I think we cannot overemphasize how much this conversation has contributed to both of us and the people and the listeners there. I can see so many comments from Folkia. Welcome, Folkia. I'm going to ask you before you leave, and as we're now winding down, if you can just take a minute to fill in the short survey we have. I promise you they're about just 5 questions, but they will help us make the webinars that we do in the future a lot more relevant. And you want to understand what other topics you want to hear, what other speakers you want us to bring on board so that we can make these webinars relevant to you. So let me start by thanking Coach Richie. I keep saying he still owes me Mandazi, but I'm very sure he will deliver very soon. Thank you for bringing your wisdom on board, everything that you have told us from where you sit, and we really appreciate your time, all 90 minutes of it, and we cannot say thank you enough. And I also want to thank, of course, my mentor, Zuhura. Thank you so much, as always, for agreeing to be part of this webinar. I can see the comments are coming in. It was a wonderful session, great insight. Great session. Looking forward to conversation on how we can thrive during performance. There is shift in leadership mindset. It starts and ends here. I actually like the thing of let us focus on ensuring that we give our leadership the tools they need to grow our organizations into great organizations. So the last thing I will leave you with is just this quote, and it's also a book that perhaps, and maybe someone can mute. Can we have someone mute? Yes. And the quote is very simple, and it says, there's a guy called Jim Collins, and he wrote the book Good to Great. And the enemy of great is not the worst. The enemy of great has always been good, has always been settling. And so let us create high-performing cultures. Let us try and be more of ourselves so that we can then be able to move from good to greatness. Excellence in everything we do. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you all a very lovely evening, and God bless you wherever you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zuhura. Maybe you can sit behind.
Thank you, Vicky, as well, for the opportunity.
You're very
Thank you for your
welcome,
generosity, for giving us a platform to express ourselves. It is one way of improving our brand as well.
It is true. It is very true. You're very welcome. We are always happy to host. Yes, always happy to host.
Yes, we thank you, Vicky.
Off to a great evening. Good. So we'll see you soon.
Thank you for sharing the advice.
Very welcome. This is Masi Asha.
Yes, thank you.
You're very, very welcome.